Hi guys, and welcome back to Assetto Corsa. So today I'm going to be driving the Ferrari 458 GT2 car, and of course this GT2 car is in the number 51 AF Corsa livery, because what other livery would you choose? And so without further ado, we're going to jump out onto the Nurburgring and go for a drive. So here we are in the Tourist and Farm car park as we make our way out past our nice man there with the lollipop in the Ferrari overalls as we head out onto the track. Now, of course, during Tourist and Farm rules, normally this would be absolutely forbidden. You cannot drive a racing car. It is a public road and you would get told off in very angry German. So, of course, the first thing you notice when you drive this car is that 4.5 litre V8 just roaring away behind your head. And as we make our way up the hill, and we start to think about braking sometime, maybe soon. There we go. And one thing you will notice is that compared to the road car, it actually sounds a little bit muted. So this is to do with something called balance of performance. Now, balance of performance is something that GT3 cars and GT4, GT3, and the GTE class, which this thing competed in, used to balance out kind of the performance between a load of their cars. I'm trying to concentrate and drive at the same time. It's really hard. Money shift there. And what you've got to remember is that in those kind of classes you have a wide variety of cars with a lot of different engine types and a lot of different configurations in terms of how the cars are set up. So for example, with this car you've got kind of a mid-engine, it's rear-wheel drive, so it's kind of fairly well balanced, and obviously it looks like a sports car, so it's kind of fairly like aerodynamic. So you take something like this and you put it up against, say for example, I don't know, a Bentley Continental, which is a bit more of a brick. The Bentley Continental obviously not as aerodynamic as this thing, and couldn't be even if it really wanted to. With that, and obviously if you put the two cars together and gave them exactly the same power, this thing would win hands down. So what they do is they apply what's called balance of performance, where basically what they do is they hand over all the cars to a control driver, someone that hasn't really got a vested interest in making any of the cars quicker, and it's generally done by the governing body. And what they do is they take data from those kind of balance performance runs from the control driver and kind of like the weight and the weight distribution of the car, and they feed those into a very clever algorithm which spits out a load of figures for the car. So for example, it will give them minimum ride height, it will give them the maximum amount of camber. Obviously these cars generally run on slick tyres, so the cornering forces are a massive thing. So the more camber you can put into the car, the more grip you're going to have in the corners. And one of the things they do is they limit they adjust the rev limiter on the cars. So this car, as the car just trying to step sideways on me there, actually has a red line of 8,500 RPM, which isn't that much lower than the road car. It's only about 9.5. Sorry, the road car is only about 9,500 RPM, but this car stops really producing power at about 6.25. So it's actually got 100 horsepower less than the road car. So if you drive the road car, you actually have a car with way more power than this car. But obviously this car makes it back in having slick tires and race suspension and stuff like that. As we make our way up the hill now, it's always one of the more fun sections of the Nurburgring, and I just managed to do that without even realising what I was doing. As head down the hill, and I always forget this corner is here, so we're going to take this nice and easy through here. Like I say, I'm not trying to break any lap records on this run, just trying to get through it and explain a little bit about the car. So like I say, it has basically the same engine as the road car, but obviously produces 100 horsepower less and weighs an awful lot less as well. As well as that, this car debuting in 2011, I think, and like I say, winning Le Mans in 2012 and 2014, so a proven Le Mans winner. and you can definitely feel it when you drive this car. As I kind of chuck it into that left-hander there, it's kind of an out-and-out thoroughbred, this car. Pardon the pun, it being a Ferrari. So we make our way down, and one of the things that this car doesn't have is ABS, which I really miss, because to be honest, I'm quite a heathen on the brakes. I'm not amazing, so I tend to just stomp on the brakes and hope that this thing will stop. And you'll probably see it a few times as into the heavy braking zones. It does have traction control. It does help you out getting out the corners, but obviously with this thing, it's like I say, you really have to be careful modulating the brakes into these corners just to not snatch a front wheel. Now, I just wanted to talk quickly about a couple of drivers that have driven this car and a couple of names that you'll recognise from Formula 1, especially if you're a Formula 1 fan. So a guy that I believe to this day drives for AF Corsa is Giancarlo Fisichella, who obviously spent a very long time in Formula 1 and actually kind of ended his time in Formula 1 with Ferrari. Obviously, one in the season when Michael Schumacher managed to have his horrible accident at Silverstone, Giancarlo Fisichella got called up to Ferrari and didn't do very well, obviously, because the car's basically built around Michael Schumacher. So it doesn't really suit those guys. And another guy that stepped into the car was Mick Casalo, and both of those guys went on to drive for AF Corsa. Now, AF Corsa is one of those teams where it's a factory team, but it's not a factory team. It's not an official Ferrari team. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ferrari are giving the guys a little bit of a helping hand. And like I say, AF Corsa have a really long history at Le Mans. I should have done this video at Le Mans, really, shouldn't I? Oh, well, too late. There's the barrier. I knew that was going to happen at some point. So we'll just try and get the car slowed down, and we'll try and make it to the end of the lap. I don't think I've bent anything too badly. We're at the mini carousel, so we're really close to the end now anyway. But like I say, those two guys driving for AF Corsa and kind of synonymous with this car. And if you watch some of the old kind of Le Mans battles of old, it is basically this car and the Porsche 911. And those are some of the most fantastic battles I have ever seen. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I've just finished the, that's the gantry there. I will brake in a sec, I promise. And that was a 658 478, which is easily doable in this car. It's one of those cars where it could, mid-sixes is fairly doable. I was kind of taking it easy and had a little bit of an accident just before the mini carousel. So there we go. That's the Ferrari 458 GT2 car, which is now the GTE car. This car actually retired in 2016, was replaced by the 488 GTE, but to be honest, I still love this thing. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, bye bye.